Hey, what's up, you guys? My name is Gus. I am a rising junior at USC, the University of Southern California, and today I'm here to talk to you guys a little bit about dorms at USC. And I think that that is a really important topic, especially at USC, because I feel like that can be very defining of your freshman year experience. I feel like at least it was for me. The dorm that I ended up living in was just such a big part of my freshman experience, so definitely something to consider. So basically at USC, most freshmen live on campus. I feel like it's about 90% of freshmen that end up living on campus, which is really cool because that whole experience, and that all of you guys are in the same boat, so that's really cool. So basically, in terms of freshman housing, you have two options. Well, you actually have three. So you have freshman suites, and you have just regular freshman dorms, and you have the apartments. The apartments aren't really an option that are actually advertised, but because you're mainly for upperclassmen. But if you really do want to live in an apartment, then I would definitely contact the housing service, and you can try and work that out. I couldn't really tell you how to do that. I just know that that's a possibility, and I've seen people do it in the past. But in terms of freshman suites, so it's basically you have a suite in which you will have usually 2 to 3 rooms with 1 or 2 people living in each room, and then you will all share 1 or 2 bathrooms, and there's just a common area. Sometimes that common area might just be a little space where the bathroom is or something, and sometimes it might be a full-on living room. It just kind of depends on which dorm you're living in. So I personally lived in McCarthy, and I loved it so much. Wouldn't trade the experience for anything. And but to live in McCarthy, you need to have one of the merit-based scholarships. So you either need to be a presidential, trustee, Morgs, or a stamps scholar. So definitely not an option for everyone. But if you can't live in McCarthy, then we also have Floor and Parkside, and there are 2 Parksides, but they're pretty much the same, so it really doesn't matter. But I really liked Floor. I feel if I hadn't lived in McCarthy, I would have wanted to live in Floor, just because it has a really nice location. It's right next to one of our gyms, and I remember that my freshman year, at least, all the people in Floor had their little youth community, and they have a few of the cultural dorms in Floor. So if you have to live a living community, I feel that's what they're called, where the whole floor is for example, I know there's the Somerville, which is a floor that's basically a cultural floor just for Black people, and people can pick to be in that floor. And I think that's really cool if that's something you're interested in. And I know there are other ones that are similar to that, in the same concept, but Somerville was the most popular one that I've heard of. And yeah, and then Parkside was also really nice, and because also all the suites have AC, so that's really one thing to consider, because the regular dorms didn't have AC. But yeah, so the only bad thing about Parkside is that people would call it Parkside or Dark Side, just because it was so far away from everything and really kind of excluded from the other things on campus. But I think that other than that, it was pretty nice. And it was right next to Parkside, the dining hall, and I loved that dining hall. So I totally would have lived at Parkside if I had to. I just feel it was pretty far from most things. So yeah, and then moving on to just regular freshman dorms, I feel to be honest, most of them are pretty similar, and it will kind of just depend on you getting lucky that year on who's actually living there. But there are 2 dorms to consider to keep an eye out for. So basically you will have Burncran and Marks Hall, Marks Tower, and Party. I feel those are just pretty standard dorms. both in terms of like location and like amenities and things you have access to. So I know that like all of them, you will have like communal bathrooms, and you will have just like the regular shared room with no AC. And I think that in terms of that, that's just like a pretty regular experience. But the other two that I wanted to mention, well, the first one is Trojan Hall, and Trojan Hall is just known for being very not great and just like in terms of structure, and yeah, just I've heard bad things about it. And like usually if you tell people that you live in Trojan Hall, you will get like dirty looks, kind of just like, oh really, that sucks. And lastly, you have New North, and New North is just a very, very niche experience, because it's like really what you think of like a freshman dorm. Very, very intense like party dorm, also very social dorm, but I will take that with a grain of salt, just because like it's a very specific dorm for a very specific like type of person. And like being really honest, it was mainly just like white people, party people, people that were in Greek life, and I often felt like people that weren't really a part of that group that ended up living there just felt kind of outcasted in certain ways. So I feel like your experience with New North is that you will either hate it or you will love it, depending on the type of person that you are. So yeah, so I feel like those are all the freshman dorms that we have at USC, and be careful when picking your dorm, because I feel like that can be very defining of a freshman year experience.
So one of the things that I would advise you guys as freshmen, as incoming freshmen, I'd say, is that definitely be careful when picking your freshman dorm. That can be very defining of like how your experience is going to be. I lived in McCarthy last year, which is like one of like the highlights of my freshman year experience, I'd say. Definitely I met some of like the greatest people that I know here at USC that I'm still friends with, even though we don't live together anymore. So today I just quickly wanted to show you guys one of our residential halls. This is not a freshman dorm, it is a sophomore apartment style, but I still just wanted to show you guys a little bit how it looks like, because even though it is like an apartment layout, the rooms still look pretty similar to what like our rooms in McCarthy looked like last year, because this is in the USC Village, which have like the nicest layouts in comparison to all the other ones. So just to kind of quickly go over all of them, McCarthy was really nice, but you did need to be a scholarship recipient to be in it. So either presidential, trustee, Marks, and there's another one, I think it's stamps. So yeah, but it was still like a very nice experience. If you are a scholarship recipient, definitely would recommend. Had the best time living there. There are a couple of dorms that are more like party dorms, so specifically New North, you'll hear a lot about it. A lot of them are more chill, quiet vibes. Is that what you're looking for? They do have like a tighter community within their floors, which like in the village was kind of like harder to build that because the floors were really large. But within our hall, we had a really good community. But Burn Grant, any of the South dorms, so Party, Marks Hall, Marks Tower, Trojan Hall, they weren't like the nicest dorms per se, but definitely a good experience from the people that I know that live there. And then you also have Parkside and Floor, which they're both like suite style, which is still very nice. They're just kind of like isolated a little bit, but still very nice if you're not really like looking forward to the experience of having to deal with communal bathrooms, which I completely dodged that bullet and very glad I did. Some people don't mind it, so that's definitely something you should weigh. I really liked Floor specifically, so I'll leave you guys with that now. So let's go in and see. She also has a dog here at USC, so let's see if she's awake. Okay. So just very quickly, so to this side you have 2 rooms and a bathroom, which we're not going to go in there because there's people there. If you just turn here, this is the kitchen area. It does come fully furnished. I think that the only thing that they have here that it didn't come with was the TV. Obviously, like the keyboard over there, and then the microwave, right? It didn't come with the microwave. And then also everything else. On this side, Also comes with, in terms of like appliances, so like obviously like none of like the pots and stuff, but fridge and the stovetop and the oven, and yeah, it's onion. This is their room, and yeah, this is like pretty standard as to like what our freshman rooms look like in McCarthy, with 2 beds, very big space, and her dog's under there. She just woke up, I guess. So I will just advise you guys that like this is not what a typical freshman room looks like. Our rooms in McCarthy were very nice, and I'm very like thankful for it. But when you're going into a freshman dorm, no matter which school you go to, just be very open-minded, because it will be an experience. You're not really like going, and like you're not signing up for something that's like bougie. You're just signing up for the experience, and that's just something you kind of have to go through, that everyone does. And it's probably not going to be the nicest place, but it's also where you're going to live one of your best memories from your freshman year and from your life. So yeah, thank you guys, and bye.